Northeastern Oklahoma hospitals experience more COVID-19 hospitalizations than they did at the height of the pandemic.
Space, the final frontier, became the latest frontier for Jeff Bezos today. I'm Mark Strassman in Culberson County, and I'll have all the details of today's historic launch to the edge of space.
And the latest on cyber attacks threatening U.S. businesses.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations are on the rise in northeastern Oklahoma. This is KOAM News at 5. Both Integris hospitals in Miami and in Grove report they're seeing more inpatients currently than they did at the height of the pandemic. In a statement on their website, they cite low vaccination rates in Ottawa and Delaware counties. The Oklahoma State Department of Health says they're seeing this lead to a large increase in cases in the last few weeks.
We are seeing a large uptick in the number of cases in comparison to what we saw earlier this year in the springtime. And so we are seeing a resurgence of COVID cases. In fact, between Ottawa and Delaware counties over the last 2 weeks, there's been over 500 new cases.
For local hospitalizations, Integris in Grove is currently seeing 12 COVID-19 related patients, and Integris in Miami currently seeing 7, which the hospital says are high numbers for them. Authorities say a Joplin bank robbery may be linked to a bank robbery in Kansas. Joplin police say the Great Southern Bank was robbed yesterday around 1 p.m. In that robbery, witnesses say the robber displayed a weapon and fled with an undisclosed amount of cash. At around 10 a.m. that morning, a bank was robbed in Lewisburg, Kansas, in Miami County. The Miami County Sheriff's Office says no weapon was displayed in that robbery. The robbers in both cases shown in surveillance video appear like they could be the same man. The Joplin Police Department, the Miami County Sheriff's Office, and the FBI are investigating whether they are connected. A day after announcing plans to step down as PSU president, Dr. Steve Scott today discussed his decision. Scott says he still plans to work in Southeast Kansas and is considering a nonprofit. Scott has worked at PSU for 3 decades and has been president since 2009. He says he's at peace with his decision to step down and says the past year has been especially challenging.
But in terms of 24/7 of this role and coming out of the Great Recession followed by a global pandemic, in some ways you feel like, hey, I've done my turn. Somebody needed to lead this place during that time. I've taken my turn. I've done the very best job I can.
Scott is stepping down as president effective in June of next year. Nick Kelly joins us now with a first look at the weather.
Good evening, Dow. We haven't had much to worry about for today. Just tracking a lot of partly to mostly sunny skies. Left for a pretty good day. Kept temperatures cooler again compared to the lower 90s where we should be for this time of the year. So far, mid-80s is as warm as we got this afternoon. Nothing underneath the partly cloudy skies in our Skywatch storm tracker, and with high pressure spinning right over the Iowa and Nebraska line, that's what's keeping us quiet this evening. That's what kept us quiet today, and that's what will keep us quiet as we go into the overnight ahead of us. Right now, temperatures lower to middle 80s, but some of the warmer spots with a little humidity makes it feel like we're in the upper 90s, but it's not too terrible compared to where we should be for this time of the year. We'll drop back near 80 by 8, down to 70 by midnight, and a mild night ahead of us as lows drop back into the mid 60s. But I am tracking the eventual return of summer heat and humidity. Down. We'll break down when it will return here in a bit.
See you then. The president is marking 6 months in office today, and he's calling on Congress to deliver on his next big priority, infrastructure. The Senate is expected to cast a procedural vote tomorrow on a $1 trillion bipartisan framework, but it's not clear whether it's going to pass. Some Senate Republicans say they won't support the vote before reading a final text. Some House progressives say it doesn't go far enough. Blue Origin's Jeff Bezos called today the best day ever after he fulfilled a childhood dream of launching into space on his own rocket. He becomes the latest billionaire to do so. Mark Strassman reports from near the launch site in Van Horn, Texas.
Blue Origin founder Jeff Bezos received an astronaut hero's welcome after touching down Tuesday morning.
2, 1.
Minutes earlier, he and his team had successfully blasted off to the edge of space, the first human passengers on his company's fully automated rocket.
I felt peaceful and serene and calm.
Surprisingly natural.
Surprisingly natural.
Yeah.
The Amazon founder was accompanied by his brother Mark, Oliver Damon, an 18-year-old Dutch student, and 82-year-old aviation trailblazer Wally Funk.
We had a great time. It was wonderful. I want to go again, fast.
During the approximately 10-minute trip, they experienced majestic views and several minutes of weightlessness before returning to Earth. After a smooth landing, the excited and jubilant crew celebrated on solid ground. Bezos' space flight comes on the heels of fellow billionaire Richard Branson's flight earlier this month, ushering in a new era of commercial space travel.
Big things start small, but you can tell when you're onto something. And this is important. We're going to build a road to space so that our kids and their kids can build the future.
Bezos wants Blue Origin eventually to go to the moon and ultimately to colonize the cosmos. Today was the first step. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Culberson County, Texas.
Blue Origin plans 2 more launches this year, the first one sometime in the fall. Muslim holiday prayers were punctuated by explosions of rockets around Afghanistan's presidential compound today. It's the first attack on Afghanistan's capital city since the Taliban launched a series of offensives to coincide with the final drawdown of U.S. troops. Taliban militants denied responsibility. Some veterans of America's longest war who have now returned home say they fought a lost cause because the Taliban is coming back into power. Coming up next, an update on COVID.
The government's top health experts testify on Capitol Hill about rising COVID-19 cases among under-vaccinated parts of the country. I'm Natalie Brand with what they're also saying about new breakthrough cases among those who are vaccinated.
And the trend for kids' prescriptions during the pandemic. Topping today's Health Watch, some of our nation's top lawmakers testified before Congress about the spread of the Delta variant and how that may impact students returning to school this fall. The hearing comes after a fully vaccinated White House official and an aide to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi tested positive for COVID-19. Natalie Brand reports from Capitol Hill.
While hosting Super Bowl champions at the White House, President Biden made a direct plea to any players who haven't yet been vaccinated.
Get one, okay?
Amen.
Get one. Get one, get one. And you're saving lives.
This comes as the White House is dealing with a breakthrough case of COVID-19. A fully vaccinated staffer tested positive for the virus.
The White House Medical Unit has conducted contact tracing interviews and determined no close contacts among White House principals or staff or the president.
On Capitol Hill, a fully vaccinated senior aide to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi also tested positive. That person came in contact with the group of Democratic Texas state lawmakers who are in D.C. lobbying for action on voting rights. Several of them have also tested positive in a growing number of breakthrough cases.
In a Senate hearing on Capitol Hill, the government's top health experts were asked about breakthrough infections. Dr. Anthony Fauci said the vaccine is still the best defense, especially against serious disease.
When you hear about a breakthrough infection, that doesn't necessarily mean the vaccine is failing.
The head of the CDC warned that coronavirus deaths are once again on the rise, especially in under-vaccinated parts of the country.
Still, nearly 2/3 of counties in the United States have vaccine coverage less than 40%.
Dr. Rochelle Walensky also said that the Delta variant now accounts for more than 80% of COVID cases. The fast spread has prompted the American Academy of Pediatrics to recommend children 2 and older wear face masks when they return to school in the fall, even if they've been vaccinated. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Prescriptions for children declined steeply during the pandemic. Researchers from the University of Michigan found antibiotics had the biggest drop off at 56%. But there was also a decrease in prescriptions for medicine that treat chronic conditions, including ADHD and asthma. New research may help doctors find the best treatment for patients with mild traumatic brain injuries. A study in JAMA Neurology suggests specific features on a CT scan can help predict how severe the outcomes will be for those who suffer a TBI, including concussions. Researchers found 3 distinct patterns indicating different levels of damage. And coffee may give some jitters, but researchers now say it can actually reduce your risk of abnormal heart rhythms. Researchers at the University of California, San Francisco conducted a study of more than 380,000 people over the course of 5 years. They found that every cup of coffee consumed on a daily basis lowers the risk of developing an irregular heart rhythm by 3%. Researchers also found moderate consumption of coffee is likely more beneficial than harmful to one's health. And that is a look at today's health news. Later, battling cybercrime.
The government and businesses are teaming up to stop ransomware. I'm Michael George with tips we all can use to help prevent attacks.
But first, we're tracking a few more warm days before the summer heat really kicks back into gear. Forecast up next. Normally, mid to late July is usually our peak in terms of temperatures at any point in the 4-state area on a normal year, but we've continued our streak of below normal days yet again today. After we saw mid-80s yesterday, we dropped back, let's say mid to upper 60s this morning. We saw the lowest observed temperature drop to regional at 67. Then so far back into the mid-80s because of partly sunny skies and a northeast breeze that's been a bit gusty at times. That's certainly helping to keep temperatures warm, but below average around here. We're going to stay very warm for the next few days despite our light northeasterly breeze turning more southerly as we go over the next few days. Can't rule out just very slight thunderstorm chances Thursday and by early next week, but the big weather story going forward, the return of the summer heat, especially kicking into gear as we head into the weekend. Looks nice though from 7th and Range Line. Partly sunny skies, maybe a bit of a haze to the sky, but hardly threatening at all. 83 in Joplin feels like 84, just a slight bump above the actual air temperature because of dew points sitting in the mid 60s. Again, those numbers aren't terrible. They're running quite a bit below where we expect dew points to sit in mid to late July. Usually the lower 70s at the very least, but everyone's looking good. Lower in the middle 80s at 5:16 on this Tuesday evening, but you factor in the dew points, lower to middle 60s for the most part. Again, looking at the dew point scale, it's a little sticky outside, but these numbers could be far worse. They're not contributing much to the heat index. Maybe it feels like 89 in Chanute, but for most of us feels like the mid to upper 80s as we get our Tuesday evening underway. Once we get past sunset though, temperatures will start to drop, 73 by 10. I'm thinking mid 60s for most of us as we go into tonight, with our partly sunny skies turning more mostly clear as we go through the overnight. Not a lot to show across the Central Plains. A high pressure sitting on top of the Missouri-Iowa line is what kept us quiet today. Now it'll keep us quiet again for tonight and tomorrow, even though it'll start to shift off toward the east. But this is helping to keep any big fronts to our north and south. That's where the big rain chances are going to stay. And plus, cooler than normal because of this upper low, still keeping the heat off to the west. But it won't be long before that upper ridge really begins to build back in and reassert itself around here. Overall, though, we're looking okay this evening. Any partly cloudy skies out there will turn mostly clear overnight with a light east breeze. We'll allow temperatures to drop back to about 66 in the morning. That breeze stays light throughout the day, but we're going to see a bump in temperatures tomorrow. 83 by noon. I'm seeing Joplin topping out at 88 for the afternoon, and most of us back into the upper 80s. Very warm, but not too terrible. And then let's look down the road. Maybe a quick wave riding along the returning jet stream by Thursday. That's where we could see a few isolated storms, but most of us will stay dry. But look at Friday into the weekend. It's all about this upper ridge really building back in. But any weaknesses in the ridge Sunday and Monday, that could try to bring an isolated storm or two by Sunday and Monday. But most of us will stay dry throughout the 7-day stretch, and everyone's going to feel the heat returning. 88 tomorrow, 89 Thursday, lower 90s through Saturday, and then mid-90s with some warm nights for early next week now.
Back to July temps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Nick. Some 80 large fires are burning across 13 western states. Almost 770 square miles have been destroyed in Washington and Oregon, and more than half a dozen large fires are burning in California. Smoke is so intense in places you can actually see it from space. In southern Oregon, more than 2,200 firefighters continue working to contain the so-called bootleg fire, which is now more than double the size of Chicago and one of the largest in modern Oregon history. Coming up, the latest steps to battle cybercrime. First, though, we recognize a local veteran of the Vietnam War. Stark, Kansas native Lonnie Hazen served in the U.S. Navy in 1968 and 69. He was stationed aboard 2 aircraft carriers and traveled to 38 nations. Aviation electronics technician Senior Chief Petty Officer Lonnie Hazen, a 4-state hero. Topping today's Consumer Watch, the Biden administration recently announced a $10 million reward for information about foreign governments conducting cyber attacks on the U.S. As reporter Michael George tells us, it's just one step being taken to combat ransomware.
Ransomware attacks are rampant, freezing computer systems for everything from a meat processor to hospitals and even schools.
Experts are projecting our K-12 schools will face a nearly 90% increase in the number of ransomware attacks just this year.
At a hearing on Capitol Hill, lawmakers and experts painted a bleak picture.
Ransomware is the #1 cybersecurity threat that we all face today.
A cyber attack on a hospital has the potential to threaten life and limb.
Efforts are being made to stem attacks. The Biden administration is stepping up the investigation of foreign hackers, and on Tuesday issued new cybersecurity requirements for pipeline operators after an attack in May shut down the Colonial Fuel operation for days. Witnesses at the hearing say collaboration is key, like the Ransomware Task Force, which has tech companies and government agencies working together.
Government has law enforcement and intelligence resources that private sector cannot match. The private sector has access to data and technological resources that governments cannot match.
And experts say there are easy steps we all can do to prevent a ransomware attack. Analyze email closely and be wary of links. They could contain malware from a hacker.
Use long, strong, and unique passwords for each account. Look, all of us are tempted to reuse passwords. Don't.
CBS News tech reporter Dan Patterson says that should include 2-factor authentication,
which is like a second password sent through text message or an application.
Microsoft says the extra layer of security could stop 99% of automated attacks, helping protect personal data and corporate networks. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Pedaling and playing on Peloton. The exercise company is gearing up to launch an in-app video game called Lane Break. No couch needed. Bike riders will pedal to keep the wheel moving to meet goals and earn rewards. Peloton says the game will be music-based and users will be able to select various resistance and difficulty levels. Hey, and take note before you take flight. According to a new study by the Points Guy, Delta Airlines is the best carrier in the sky. It's the 3rd consecutive year the airline has taken the top spot. Southwest landed in 2nd place and United rounded out the top 3. At the bottom of the list, Allegiant Air along with Frontier and Spirit. A final check of the forecast next. The CBS Evening News is next. Then tonight on KOAM News at 6, the rising hospitalization rates from COVID-19 in both northeastern Oklahoma and in Arkansas. Plus, a court hearing concerning abortions in Missouri and abortion law. And a Webb City man pleads guilty to child sex crimes. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. Checking back with Nick Kelly. The temperature up there a bit, I guess, but the humidity not too bad at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to stay that way, thankfully, Dal, for a few more days. We'll go 88 Wednesday, a bit warmer, but still below normal. 89 Thursday. You could argue a weak wave riding along the jet Thursday could try to bring a few storms, but most of us will say dry Thursday. And even though we've enjoyed a nice string of below normal days, it's still summer, so we'll have the summer heat and humidity ready to kick back into gear as soon as we hit the weekend.
Yeah, temperatures in the 90s, not all that uncommon this time of year. Uncomfortable, but not uncommon. Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. Of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. We'll see you then. Let's make it a great evening.